Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to crack the code on one of the biggest challenges for German learners: how to actually sound natural. And you know what? The solution is way simpler and more powerful than you might think.
So, have you ever had that feeling? You're speaking German, you know all the right words, you've studied the grammar for hours, but something just feels off. It doesn't quite flow. Well, you are definitely not alone, and the reason why is probably not what you expect.
And here's the good news. It's not about memorizing thousands of more words. Nope. The real secret, the thing that separates fluent speakers from learners, is understanding that some German words are part of a team. They work together.
And this is what we're talking about. German fixed pairs. You can think of these like the secret handshake of the language. There are these little phrases that native speakers use all the time without even thinking, and mastering them is your key to sounding natural.
So, what exactly is a fixed pair, or as it's called in German, a feste Verbindung? Well, it's a group of words that are basically glued together. You can't just learn them separately. You have to learn the entire phrase as one single idea, one vocabulary chunk.
Okay, so these pairs usually come in two main flavors. First, you've got verbs that are permanently attached to a specific preposition. A classic example is warten auf. And second, you have these cool noun-verb combos that team up to make a new idiomatic meaning, like eine Rolle spielen. Let's dive into that first type.
All right, this is where the grammar really kicks in, but in a cool way. See, when a verb gets glued to a preposition, that tiny preposition suddenly becomes a little grammar boss. It gets to decide the case, accusative or dative, of whatever comes after it.
So here's the mental checklist you need to run through. Step 1, you see the verb warten, to wait. Step 2, your brain has to immediately fire off its partner, auf. Step 3, you remember that auf is the boss here and it demands the accusative case. And that's how you get to the correct result, ich warte auf dich.
And you'll see this pattern all over the place. For example, sich interessieren always goes for für. To think of someone is denken an. To speak about something is sprechen über. And in all of these, that preposition forces the next noun into the accusative case.
But wait, it's not always accusative. Other verbs have different partners, and those partners demand the dative case. For example, abhängen goes with von, to depend on, and anfangen goes with mit, to begin with. That's exactly why you say es hängt vom Wetter ab, because von is a dative preposition.
So here's the absolute bottom line for this section. You can't just learn one part. You have to burn this three-part formula into your memory. The verb, its inseparable preposition, and the case that preposition demands. That whole thing is the vocabulary item.
Okay, on to our second type of fixed pair, these awesome noun-verb combinations. I like to think of them as idiomatic power couples. Two simple words get together and create one single powerful idea.
Now, this is exactly where trying to translate word for word will get you into trouble. You see a phrase like Kosten tragen, and you think, to carry costs? It just sounds weird, right? But when you learn it as a fixed chunk, you immediately know it means to bear the costs. It's so much smoother. And here are a few that you will hear constantly. Eine Rolle spielen usually doesn't mean acting in a play. It means to be important. Verantwortung tragen is a great way to say to bear responsibility. And Bescheid wissen just means to know or to be in the loop. You got to learn these as a single unit. So the big mental shift here is to stop seeing individual words and start seeing a single concept. Außer Zweifel stehen isn't to stand outside of doubt. No, it's one idea. To be beyond doubt. Just learn the whole chunk.
All right, so now that we know what we should be doing, let's talk for a second about what not to do. Because honestly, recognizing these common mistakes is probably the fastest way to get better and start sounding more natural.
These are the big ones. First, just defaulting to the English preposition. That's a classic trap. Second, you remember the right preposition, but you forget which case it needs. Third, you try to split up those noun-verb combos. And finally, you might forget a tiny but crucial word like a reflexive pronoun.
Let's look at a perfect example. In English, we say we wait for someone. So it is so tempting to say, ich warte für dich. But now we know better, right? In German, the verb warten is glued to auf. It's always warten auf. And here's the next level of that mistake. Okay, so maybe you remember to use auf. Awesome. But then you forget the case. Warten auf demands the accusative. So dir, which is dative, is wrong. It has to be dich. This is exactly why learning that three-part unit is so important.
Okay, you've got the theory. You understand the concept. This is your new fluency superpower. So how about we put it to the test right now? Ready?
All right, here's the first one. The verb is abhängen, to depend on. So, das hängt vom Wetter. What's that little piece that goes at the end?
Yes, it's ab. The fixed phrase is the separable verb abhängen von. And notice vom, which is just a mashup of von dem, because von commands the dative case. You got it.
Okay, one more. This time it's a noun-verb combo. His opinion plays no... what here? Seine Meinung spielt hier keine...
Rolle. Of course it is. Eine Rolle spielen means to be important. See what just happened? You didn't have to translate role and play, you just knew the chunk that fit. That is the goal right there.
So if there's one thing you take away today, it's this. The key to sounding fluent isn't just learning more words. It's about learning powerful word chunks. Now that you know the secret, the only question is, what fixed pairs are you going to go out and discover next?